Good evening, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is myself, and Scotty Webb talking some MLB baseball playoffs Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, as the Twinkies are down 9-1, bottom of the ninth. One guy on against the Astros. Astros about to go up 2-1. Later on tonight, Baltimore faces off at Texas. Must win for the Orioles. Currently at circa Rangers minus 139. You can grab the Orioles plus 127. Under over did drop to 8.5. Over 15 cents. That's gone from 9 to 8.5, 9 to 8.5 there. Shout out to the guys behind the glass. Joe Shea, Evan Lewis, Alu, Bennett, and Cade Horton. Shout out to our new sponsor and partnership with WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, please go to your app store, download it. It's for free. WagerWire. Sync all your bets, follow your bets, keep up track of your ROI. A lot of sports books where you can get some free bets, some bonus plays. There is an affiliate program also with WagerWire. Go to affiliate at wagerwire.com. Tell them Jeff Dawson, ECSI sent you. They'll take care of you on that aspect. A lot of big things planned for our partnership with Zach, Travis, and the rest of the team there. So without further ado, let's bring him in. From the Palm Tree States himself, the one and only, Mr. Scott E. Webb. Evening, Scott.
Yes, sir. It is. We're now knee deep in these playoffs, aren't we? I mean, it's crazy baseball, as we might say, but lot of exciting games and some duds out there too. I mean, these games that are 9-1 aren't so exciting, are they?
If you had the over, it was right, or the Orioles team total over, you're all set.
Well,
I mean, the Astros.
The one thing I'll say is I don't, with all the stuff I said all year long about how good all these pitchers were and all that stuff, I don't think going into this postseason, where's all the dominant pitchers at? I mean, they're not around. They're all gone. So hey, Billy, how you doing, brother? So I sit here and kind of look at that, and that's what postseason baseball has always been. It's always been, the dominant pitching beats the hitting and all that stuff. But you got Kershaw out there, can't get but one out. The next night Miller goes out, can't get what did he go, 1 inning, maybe 1 2/3 of an inning. These guys can't do it. And the most dominant pitchers that I've seen, is Wheeler for the Phillies. He's been lights out. Eovaldi was great his first time out. Montgomery was good his first time, but the difference being is those guys, not Eovaldi so much, but Montgomery's hittable. He's not a guy that goes out there and gets strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. It's like Sonny Gray today. He needs to put the ball in the right place to get them to hit the ball to make the outs. And, you don't have these, and I get it, this isn't the same year and it's not the right stuff, but, you don't have your DeGroms and your Scherzers and those guys out there just blowing gas past people. And, it's hard to hit and, and all that stuff. It's, this is more wide open and offenses are mattering a little bit more. Having said that, one of the best offenses out there was the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have they have played 2 games, have 10 hits and 4 runs. That's not very good. So I think it's just amazing that the playoffs are working a little differently than what I've seen in the past too.
It's funny. We talked about this last week. The MLB, I think what they tried to do instead of the play-in games, which was win and you advance to travel to the next ballpark to immediately play a team waiting for you. So what they tried to do is say, all right, the best of 3, first one that wins 2 games, maybe thinking we'd get out of 4 series 2 3-game series and then 2 2-game series. Well, they got 4 sweeps. And then the way with the travel day is the teams waiting had 5 days off. And you've played Major League Baseball. I've played up to college. I've coached college baseball. I know this is if you give me 5 days off, I'm going to have all my arms ready, and you're going to give some people that are a little sore some time off, and I appreciate it. And if the Braves didn't rally last night, the teams waiting would have all been 0-2. And then everyone was already talking, bitching, and complaining that 5 days off just ruins baseball. We can't have that immediately, blah, 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 blah. Already complaining. Thoughts on the format and being a former player? If you had just played 162 games and earned the right for 5 days off, would you be bitching and complaining?
Well, I don't think I would be bitching and complaining. I would tell you this, Major League Baseball players are a creature of habit. It's routine. So if you have 4 or 5 straight days off before your next, that's not routine. That's not usual. They're used to having 1 day off or rain outs or whatever, maybe 2 days off, that kind of thing. So they're used to bouncing back from those kinds of spots. Having said that, the advantage is what you really want to have. That's why you go out and have the better records, right? You go out and win those 100 games because you get 2 things. One, you get home field advantage. And number 2, you get to line up your pitching staff. The team that comes to face you doesn't. They already had to we just saw it in most of these cases. They got to pitch their number 3 pitcher against your number 1. So, and in this series, right, it's a five game series. You only got to win 3 games. And if your number 3 is going against the other team's number 1, well, that should be a win for the number 1. And then a number 1 against the number 2, it can be a toss-up game, but you got the home field advantage. They might win 2 games right away. So it is an advantage to win the games. It is an advantage to have home field, but you have to wait for the other team to get there. The only other alternative that would be a true alternative, other than the ones I've seen, would be is to add another team so that there's the same number of teams and they all play at the same time, and the number 1 team gets the worst of the bunch. But what's the point of that? You're adding 2 more teams to this, and I don't think what's so great about baseball is it's 162 games. There's no flukes. There's no flukes about who's in the playoffs. They played 162 games to get there, and this year it was a even schedule for the most part. So they played every team. All of them did. So the reality of it is, or at least in my opinion, is that there's no reason to fret being the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed and having those days off. I think that the reality becomes is how you manage that time and what you do with the time, and how those things happen moving forward, because ultimately it's not the time off that's causing the problem. It's and it may, to a degree it might, but if you're allowing the game before you or the series before you to say, okay, for example, the Texas Rangers played 2 games, they were hot, they won the games, and now they move in to play Baltimore, and okay, because they won those 2 games, they're all of a sudden real hot. I don't buy that. So if you look at the data or the numbers, and if you go back, and if I pull this up right, the number that I thought was kind of interesting with the Rangers in particular in this series. So in their last, where is it at? In the last 30 games, they're 15-15. That's not the greatest thing in the world. They didn't come in hot. They didn't come into the playoffs, going totally crazy. And Baltimore was 18-12. Okay, well, that's pretty good. 18-12 is pretty good. So I kind of looked at it, and I think that the reality becomes is, what do the matchups look like? How do the hitters go? because if you don't have the pitching to match, like Baltimore doesn't have those big aces up there to shut teams down, then that means Texas is going to hit. Theoretically, it should work the other way, but you had a good game from Evaldi, and Montgomery made it through, even though he got banged around a little bit. But you beat up the other team's pitcher, so then tonight you're going to run into a weird scenario. You and I talked pregame about Evaldi. You just can't underestimate the value of what these guys can do in the playoffs and the experience that they have. You called him a bulldog, and I agree with that. He's just a gritty, tough guy. He's just going to go out there and give you all he's got, and he's going to be a good pitcher. On the other side, you got a guy that's Kramer, who's coming in, got all kinds of things going on in his head, I think. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, he's from Israel, so he's got a lot of family matter problems, and he's got, things going on in his personal life that can influence this. But over the last half of the season, Kramer has been really, really good. In fact, what his numbers look like, the splits for him and his second half splits, he had a earned run average of, and I don't use earned run average that much, but his earned run average was 3.73. His SOPS plus was 102, so that's kind of average that way. But he was real good compared to what his previous first half was. In his first half, he had a earned run average of 4.38, so he improved that by 50 points. He's just much better in the second half, and then you run into Evaldi, and Evaldi, had that problem where he was not healthy. So because he wasn't healthy, he only pitched 140 innings this season. I told you at the the pregame, like he led them in wins with 12, but he didn't hardly pitch in the second half. In the whole second half of the season, he pitched how many innings did he pitched 26 innings in the second half of the season. 26. That's not very many. And his earned run average was 7.18 in the second half. So it's terrible. So he wasn't any good at all. And then he goes out against the Rays and he pitches a great game, shuts them out, or gives up one run or whatever it was. It's amazing how these things happen. He pitched 6.23 innings, gave up 6 hits, 1 run, struck out 8 in that game. So what are you going to get tonight? Well, I think 2 things. One, you've got a bunch of hitters on Texas who's not going to fear this pitcher. And I think we talked before. I think this is the first home game for Texas in the new stadium. The 2020 COVID season, they got the World Series there because there was a mask issue and they were allowed to not wear masks and fill up the stadium. And then they've been on the road in these playoffs. So I think that this place is going to be nuts there tonight. I think that you have more veteran type guys on this team with Simeon and Seager and those kind of guys. And every at bat is critical, and those guys take it as such. I mean, Corey Seager had 5 walks the other night. So I think Baltimore is probably a little bit too early. I like their offense. I just don't like their pitching.
No, and I know the real experts when they were breaking down this series to start, and you just, hit the nail with the hammer here. Corey Seager, 5 walks. The experience that Corey brought to this team. We talk about the Astros backstage, and even though they don't have that stellar front end pitching, they have so much experience. And when the pitchers struggle, the offense picks it up. When the offense is struggling, the pitchers pick it up. And on the Texas side, again, Evaldi, World Series winner, Corey Seager, World Series winner. What these two bring to the table of a bunch of, as you said, there are some veterans on the team, the Simeons of the world and such, but the playoff and World Series experience, what they add and bring to a team, Scott?
Well, I think it's critically important because the scene, the scenario, the I don't want to call it matchup because that's not really right, but the moment is not too big, and all these players are going to tell you they want that, they want to be involved in that, but some people breathe different when they're in the limelight and they need to come through. They breathe different. They're not up there going, they're not up there panting and they're not up there stressing. The guys that have been there and have done this, those guys are looking forward to it. They're paying it to just like it's a regular, but everything's moved up a notch. It's moved up a notch. That's why you get guys like Sonny Gray, who's had a great season. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. But, you get him out there in this scenario, and, I saw all over Twitter and stuff that, this is the first time he's ever given up more than give up 2 home runs and stuff since 1921 or since 2021 or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, I get it, but he's also not been in the playoffs like this either. I mean, he has, but he hasn't been like this, and he hasn't had to face this team. These guys like Alvarez, what did he do? Hit 2 home runs again today. These guys they feast in those moments, and as a pitcher, you need to match that. You cannot make that mistake, because if you do, you're down 4-0, and it's just a blink of an eye. Boom, you're done. You're down. So I think, looking at last night's game, I don't want to call them lucky because they weren't lucky. They battled back and won the game. But when you get down 4-0 and you're the Atlanta Braves, you're not supposed to win that game. You're not supposed to win that game. The other team's supposed to come out there, and even if you give up a run or 2 runs, or even in this case, they gave up 3 runs, you should have a bullpen that can shut it down. But the truth of the matter is, all it takes is that one big hit. They got it from Austin Riley, and then, I don't know what I do know, but I know what Bryce Harper was doing. He was trying to score from first base on that play because he thought it was over the guy's head, and he was going to, because he's the tying run, he was going to score, and of course he got too far past second base, and then holy cow, he threw the ball back in, and it missed the cutoff guy, rolled around on the infield, and they picked it up, and still threw him out at first base. He must have been carrying a piano on his back or something. I mean, holy crap. Had cement in his boots, if you want to call it that. But I get it. Baseball is a different game that way. And every little thing compiles to the other thing, right? I mean, even in that game, you mentioned backstage, the little bobble that Turner made. Well, that was an important thing because these games turn on momentum, and momentum can be a strike. That's all it needs to be is one strike or a critical walk, and you get a guy on base, and then all of a sudden, holy shit, we got life because you got a guy on base. And that was the thing that bothered me today with the Twins. Javier wasn't his best today, and granted, he didn't give up any runs, but holy shit, did he have to get out of trouble. Every inning almost he was in trouble. And he was putting guys on base. He was giving all of that, and then he would go strike out the next guy. And I'm like, why are they striking out? Just put the ball in play, and you're going to score runs. But it's Major League Baseball, so it doesn't quite work out that way all the time. But if you watch the Astros play, and I'm not an Astros fan, but if you watch the Astros play, that's one thing they do is they put the ball in play. And if they put the ball in play, the other team has to field it, and they have to throw it, and they have to get you out. And if you hit it in the right spots, you get doubles, triples, and home runs, and they're pretty good at
that. Tomorrow night, actually, I'm looking at tomorrow. Phillies right now, -126, Braves +115 with an under over a 9. Currently, Minnesota -130 at DraftKings, Houston +110. Obviously, awaiting to see if there's a Baltimore or Texas game. Dodgers, Diamondbacks. Dodgers -140 at Circa. D-backs +128 with a 9.5. D-backs 4-0 in the playoffs. Another team that has not played at home. Dodgers on life support backstage. We talked about Gallen. We talked about Merrill Kelly. And unfortunately, the Dodgers don't have an ace. Their ace, as you said, at this point, Clayton Kershaw got one out in the first inning. There's no Walker Buehler. There's no Urias. The list is endless. No Carrot Top. Are the Dodgers dead, or do you think that, a win tomorrow with Lance Lynn, which at some points couldn't get one out? Other times, another guy that knows how to get people out. Looking like a shootout. I saw somewhere team total of the Dodgers is 5 and a hook. So some places think they might get 6 or more. It just takes that one win. I go back to the Red Sox in 04, down 0-3 to the Yankees, the stolen base by Roberts, the base hit, and then the rest is history. They come back and win 4 straight and then obviously win the World Series. Do the Dodgers with no pitching, can they win tomorrow? Can they get out of Arizona and make it back at least to force a Game 5 back in LA, Scott?
Well, I think that Lance Lynn has the pedigree and the experience to turn in a good game. I think that kid Fad is pitching tomorrow, and I don't like him very well, but that he's pitched pretty well lately. There's no way I can sit here and honestly say that, hey, the Dodgers have a fighting chance, because I don't think they do. I think there's been, I know something like this has happened 13 times where the teams have gotten ahead 2-0, and I'm pretty sure it's like 12 out of 13 those teams won or something like that. Some goofy number. Maybe it was 11 out of 13. So maybe there's a chance that the Dodgers can pull this off. The problem that I have with the Dodgers, and I've always had with the Dodgers, is they're not a deep team. I know everybody thinks they're this greatest offense in the world, but you have Mookie Betts and you have Freddie Freeman. That's what you have in that team. And if the catcher Smith is doing okay and Muncie's in a good role, then you got a pretty good offense. But that doesn't, right now, what did you say? They were 1 for 13, the two of them, so Freeman and Betts. That's not, they're not going to win that way. And I heard Torey Lovello, the manager for the Diamondbacks, say, our objective in this whole series is to not let Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman bat 5 times in one game. That's their objective. So if they keep it that way and they manage the game that way, that's why they're making all these moves and doing all these different things. They don't want those guys. And if you think about it, if those guys were to bat 5 times in one game, that means they're getting some scoring, they're getting some runs, they're getting through the batting order a little bit prior, because 4 times is normal. So if you got an additional at bat from those 2 guys who lead off the inning, that's very dangerous, and that's a lot of runs that they can get even in the 9th inning when they come up to bat for the 5th time. So I think if they were to get to a spot in this game coming up where the kid is like struggling and going through, can't get guys out, and he's going through the lineup, chick, but they're not really scoring, they're going to take him out because they don't want that guy to come. They don't want him to come up 5 times. So if they don't want him to come up 5 times, I think, as a manager and a strategy, that's pretty smart thinking. That's pretty good. And the way they're scoring runs, Jeff, they played 4 games, scored 26 runs, the Diamondbacks. And that's against the Brewers pitching and now the Dodgers pitching. And of course, the Dodgers pitching hasn't been very good, but coming into this, you wouldn't have said that they would, Clayton Kershaw would give up 6 runs before he got 1 out. And the other kid, Miller, wasn't going to do anything good either. So, they're hot. So that's a team that's hitting hot. And, the Texas Rangers, they have 25 runs in 4 games. So those 2 teams, but their batting average is 265 and 272. The team that's got the highest batting average in the postseason, Milwaukee Brewers, 309. And they're out. and think about it. They had the best pitching matchups. They did. They had the best pitching matchups. The Brewers You know, they had the best, but the better pitching. They had the way to go. They remind me, them and the Twins are like mirror teams to me in a sense that I think the Twins pitching is deeper. I think the Twins 1 through 9 are deeper, but they get guys on base and can't bring them in. And then, you know, the youth movement hasn't hit those teams to the point in which that really provides that energy and juice, like, you know, Corbin Carroll has done for the Diamondbacks, and, you know, some of these other Ranger players, that Carter kid, and Young is back and playing and doing things for the Texas Rangers. So it takes a mix, and it takes, you know, it takes good manager too. I think, you know, you know, you can say what you want to about the manager of the Texas Rangers, but man, I'm telling you, that guy knows how to win. I mean, he won 3 World Series championships with the Giants, and I think that this is going to be interesting, because if you match Houston to Texas, you know, the home field's going to go to Houston because they won the division. And then they played 13 times, and Texas only won 4 of them. So Houston won 9 of the 14. I'm not telling you it's a cakewalk, but, you know, I still don't think Houston has that dominant pitching, but I think I would take their pitching over Texas's pitching. And, you know, you can sit here and say, hey, the Rangers offense has been really good, but I'll take Houston just because they've been there, done that. And I think Houston's going to the World Series. And, you know, on the other side, you know, whoever wins, and I would say Arizona's going to win, but whoever wins, Arizona and the Dodgers, I don't think they're getting past either one of the Phillies or the Braves, whoever wins that series. And then you're going to end up with, you know, possibly what was the World Series last year? Wasn't it the Phillies and the Astros? You might have that same thing, or you might have the Braves and the Astros, whichever way, and be interesting to see how it works out. I think the Braves are going to have a hard time winning one game in Philadelphia, the way that place rockets and goes. But Aaron Nola's kind of a guy that has good stuff, but he can get in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he can give up a couple shots here and there, and then all of a sudden he's behind. And I don't think you want to be behind the Atlanta Braves. You want to be ahead of the Atlanta Braves and make them play catch up and see if they can. And of course they did yesterday.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I don't know if you could have a chance to pull it up. Aaron Nola does not have good success lifetime career-wise. Again, he's either real good against the Braves, or he's real bad. I don't think there's a middle. I don't think he's had great success against the Braves, or is it the other way around?
I'm going to tell you in just a second. I got to get there. It's like 17 clicks to find it this way, but whatever, it is what it is. Nola, come on, computer. There you go. So Aaron Nola against the Braves, those guys have batted 360 times against Aaron Nola. So that's a lot, you know. I mean, I get it; they're division rivals and all of that. Acuna bats 327 against them. He's the best one. Austin Riley bats 389 against them. So there's another one. But they've hit 18 home runs against him. 18. That's a lot. You know, they bat 250, 18 home runs. They got 22 doubles against him, 90 hits in those 360. You know, Albies bats 254 against him. But those are the guys you want. You know, those are the guys that have to hit. And if you can get Acuna on, and you can get Austin Riley hitting. You know, the guy that I haven't really seen hit too much has been Matt Olson right now, right? He's got that kind of loopy swing. But if you put the ball in the right spot, that ball is going to be, you know, going crazy. And, you know, what happened to Sean Murphy, by the way? You know, that at the beginning of the season, he was like, holy crap, he's the best catcher there ever was. And now all of a sudden he bats 8th and 9th in this lineup anymore. Of course, Harris has played a lot better since at the beginning, so they need to move him up. So I agree with that. But He was supposed, he I'm not saying he's done bad because he's not, but he's, in my opinion, I'd take Real Muto.
Before we wrap things up here, big if, Dodgers get swept or they lose in 4, I don't know what it looks like next year. They're free agents. I don't know who's coming back. I know Clayton Kershaw is a free agent, but again, if he wants to come back, he'll sign obviously with the Dodgers. I don't have the medical stats on Bueller, on Carrot Top, and the rest of their staff. I don't know what's going on with Urias. I assume there's a lot more to that. I don't know if he'll ever pitch for the Dodgers again. My question to you is, let's just say for poops and giggles, they get swept. They win 115 games 2 years ago. This year they won, 96, 97, 98, whatever the number was. Their rover came in. Does this make Shohei even a must get for them?
I don't think you can sit here and say that Shohei Ohtani is not a must get. The problem, what you're going to run into is what are you going to get, right? So the very first year, you're not going to get him to pitch. He's not pitching, so he's only going to hit, and so you've got to be deep enough to have a team that's going to go there. And here's, if you want to know who their free agents are, it's Clayton Kershaw, Jason Hayward, J.D. Martinez, Julio Urias, Ryan Brazier, Shelby Miller, Jake Marisnick, Ahmad Rosario, David Prado, Colton Wong, Enrique Hernandez, Jimmy Nelson. So no craziness other than,
JD.
The guys that have kind of been up there. Yeah. So then if you break it down and you go, hey, when are these guys going to come back? Let me look at when they left. I think that you're going to get some of these guys back. Let's see. So on the DL inactive, where is the pitchers? Tony Gonsolin, he had Tommy John surgery in September. He's not going to pitch next year. Walker Bueller had Tommy John surgery in August of last year, so he's going to be back. And you can build a rotation around that, because that is somebody that you can have. Dustin May had a flexor tendon issue. Might as well be Tommy John. It was in July, so he's going to miss half of next year probably. So you're going to get Dustin May back, probably in the middle. Gonsolin you're not going to have back, and then you're going to have Walker Bueller. And you're not going to. I don't think you're going to have Julio Urias. I think he's done. So I think the Dodgers are done with him, because this is not his first run-in with this. This is his second. And yeah, so I think they're done with him. So they're going to need pitchers. They're going to need a lot of pitchers. And they got young kids, and they got guys, the Pepios and all those kind of guys and stuff. And the Miller, right? You still got Miller, and so you can start putting together a staff, bring in a couple of good pitchers, and then try to fill in the rest. J.D. Martinez is a good player. I think they did pretty good by what was that guy's name played for the Cubs? The outfielder Hayward's been pretty good for them. Outman needs to take another level step up. They need a shortstop. What are they doing at shortstop? Gavin Lux was their guy that they missed, and he'll be back. But I don't know that Gavin Lux is an answer even better than what they already got. So, they're Freddie Freeman. They're, Mookie Betts. I like the catcher. I think Will Smith is really good. I think Max Muncy's sort of like an equivalent to Schwarber, if you will. Low batting average, big home runs, big RBIs, fairly clutch hitter, I think. But when you lay out some of these teams, that doesn't match what the Braves have. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. in my opinion, doesn't really match what the Phillies have. So can they orchestrate a lot of stuff? They look, man, they got money. They can do whatever they want. They got smart ownership. They got smart general manager there. They've won 100 games. They've won the division 8 million times in a row. So I think they'll put a good team together. I think they'll find a way. At the beginning of this season, it was all about, well, let's see what the kids can do. Well, I think the kids got them to where they need to go, but they're not going to push them through. And if you can't beat the Diamondbacks, and I don't want to be discrediting the Diamondbacks because what they're doing is amazing to me. But the other side of it is if you can't beat that team, and you beat them all year, and you can't beat them in the playoffs, that's another problem. You need to get in. Shohei fills what spot for them? I mean, where's he going to play? I mean, he can obviously play DH because JD Martinez won't be there, and I don't know what they're going to do with Jason Hayward, but they don't need him. They can go get another outfielder, somewhere. There's plenty of those guys around. So I just think that they'll rebound. They'll be fine. I think the team to watch in free agency and all that stuff next year is the San Francisco Giants. Make some splashy moves. They want to do some stuff. They want to compete. They want to be in that spot. I mean, I was pretty surprised they got rid of Gabe Kapler. I didn't think he was doing a bad job. I mean, I don't really like Gabe Kapler and his style and what he does as manager, but he wasn't doing a bad job there. But maybe there's a personality conflict or whatever. But he got a lot out of that team, and that team has some good pitching, so they can build around some stuff. They got older players on the team, but I think if you start influxing some guys into that lineup, all of a sudden, you put Shohei Ohtani on that team, you put another guy with him, and then all of a sudden they got something, So they're not that far away, and they got some guys that can pitch at the front end, and they got a good guy in the back end. So I don't know. I think the Giants are a team to watch. And from what I'm kind of seeing and kind of reading tea leaves is I think the St. Louis Cardinals are a team that's sitting there going, we're done with this, trying to build a certain way. We're just going to go out and get some horses and bring some people in. When was the last time that the Cardinals finished below 500? I think it was like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, some crazy number like that. It's kind of, like the Yankees, these teams don't lose like that. So I think that's a shock to the system. I think for their case, it was good to get rid of Flaherty, but that's another team. They got no pitchers at all now. They ain't nobody there. I mean, their best pitcher was Wainwright, and now he's in the booth talking about whatever that pitch is, this slurve or whatever it's called, sweeper. That's what he was doing the other day, talking about the sweeper pitch. So they got a lot of building to do on that team, but they got a great bullpen and they got a great 1 through 9. So I don't like their manager at all, and I think that they would do a real well to just bring in some solid starting pitching, at all levels there, and really develop them. That one kid never really developed either. The kid they got from the Rays, I don't remember what his name is now, but he just didn't get it going for them. He was supposed to be a young kid that was supposed to be good, and he just never was. And they traded away some players that could help them, but they got a problem in the outfield. So they got too many outfielders, that team. So they're going to have to get rid of a couple outfielders, and maybe they can get some arms through that, or whatever. Another team that you got to watch is the Yankees. What the hell are they going to do? They got pitching problems. They got. And you would have thought that they wouldn't, but you saw Rodon. Rodon, looks really bad. That doesn't mean that he won't come back and be okay. But Rodon didn't look good. Severino, he might as well pitch in AAA anymore. What are they gonna do? Rely on Michael King to be the guy that runs out there right after Garrett Cole, and then they don't. They brought up them kids. And the kids didn't impress me any. Volpe was okay most of the season. I mean, he had 20 home runs or whatever. But the difference is that these other teams get on base, they move runners around, they're athletic, they hit the ball, and they hit home runs. If Aaron Judge doesn't play, the Yankees are going to lose.
Soto, I can just see Soto as a Yankee. I can just see it. I mean, I think he fits the profile, just everything about him. The city would eat him up.
The Yankees made a mistake when they had the opportunity and didn't want to go fight the Phillies. They should have signed Bryce Harper. The left-handed guy in that stadium, that particular bulldog guy, that's what they should have done. Because not that Philadelphia doesn't love him, but the Yankee fans would have loved him too. And in that stadium, he would have been iconic. Not that he's not going to be with the Phillies. I'm not saying that. I just, that's a mistake. You as a general manager of a team, you've got to know kind of how to build your team. And if you have a short porch in right field, you need left-handed power hitters. And who the Yankees have with left-handed power hitters? And don't tell me it's goddamn Rizzo. I mean, like it's just not. So I look at it and sit there and go, man, Bryce Harper could be MVP every year if he played for the Yankees, just because of the short porch over there and kind of how it all plays out. But I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of a problem or something that way. I don't know. Maybe there was some weird thing. I don't know.
Now, the Padres potentially were going to be sellers at the All-Star break. They could have gotten a lot of assets for Blake Snell. They could have got a lot of assets for Josh Hader, and they could have got a lot of assets for Soto. I do not believe the late readings that I saw that they're looking to make an extension to Soto. I call BS on that. Like I says, the way I read this is Yankees are going to miss out on Shohei, and they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to call the Padres because he's got 1 year left on that deal. They're going to make a move, and he's only 25 years old. I think they're going to build around Soto. And what's really hand-tied the Yankees, Scott, let's be honest, is that stupid-ass contract they gave to Stanton. I mean, if they could, I would try to pan him off to someone, and I'd pay 60 cents on the dollar just to get him out. He's just tying too much up, and it's just been a killer on that team.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. That they thought they were going to have Stanton and Judge go hit 60 home runs apiece, and Stanton can't even stand in the batter's box 60 times anymore. So I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what they're going to do with that team. Their swing and miss is terrible. The balls in play are terrible. They brought in DJ LeMahieu for putting balls in play, and when he first got there, he was okay, but he's getting old and he's sore and he's hurt, and Rizzo's old and he's sore and he's hurt, and that's just not going to win. And look what the Orioles did, and look at their youth. I mean, they're a whole team is youthful 1 through 9. Those guys. Those guys are all young players, and of course they're good draft choices, and they got another one coming. I mean, they've got so much coming, but it's the pitching they don't have, and I don't know if they go out and spend money to get pitching, or if they go and make some trades to get pitching, but they're going to need to have some dominant stuff going on.
As we always do, Scotty, I love to throw you a nice soft curve and like to have some closing thoughts out of your camp. We will definitely meet back here at worst next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Maybe we can catch each other later this week as the playoffs heat up even more, or if not, we'll be ready for the AL and NLCS. But prior to that, give us a few closing thoughts.
Well, I think some of the things that I'm seeing and watching and looking at and trying to understand about Major League Baseball this year is it's not the same. And it's not the same in a good way. For the fans, for everybody watching the sport, the game has become more athletic. It's become younger. It's become faster paced. It's become theoretically more energetic, and all of that is a good thing. But it also is an indication to some of these teams that they're past the spots. Their windows are closing. The things aren't very good, and they got to revamp and retool. So the off season will be interesting. You and I talked about that. I think the last time I was on, we talked about what the hot stove was going to look like and all the different fun things that can happen and who's going to go where and all that stuff. I saw something that said the Cardinals were interested in Aaron Nola, stuff like that. That would be interesting. He's a free agent coming up. So who's going to end up with what and who's going to end up where and how things are going to go. But I think it's interesting that as we go through all this stuff, the one thing that keeps ringing in my head all the time, and I've talked about this several times, and I talk about RBI guys and the value of RBI guys, and those 100-run RBI guys. The Minnesota Twins, you know who their leader in RBIs was this year? Just take a guess.
It wasn't Carlos Correa.
Nope. It was Max Kepler. He had 66 RBIs. So think about where they're at and what they're doing in these series games and these playoff games and the value of having a Yordan Alvarez gets those 90, 100 RBI guys. Those guys matter, and they matter more as the season wears on, and they matter more in these playoff games because they drive in the runs the others don't. And all these goofballs like me that come up with all these data points and data numbers and all this crap. The reality of it is, if you don't have a guy that goes out there and drives in the runs, you're not going to win the games. It's one thing to put them on base, but pitchers aren't stupid. They throw the ball where hitters are going to make themselves get out, and hitters are stupid. They hit the ball right where the pitcher wants them to. So it's that's the way baseball is right now. You don't have Tony Gwynn up there anymore, and those kind of guys, Rod Carews, just spraying the ball all over the place, doing the things to make things go. I guess you got that kid Arise down in Miami, but most everybody else doesn't play the game that way. They're up there trying to hit the ball over the fence, or at least one bounce into the fence, and and all that stuff. So I think you're seeing the true value of what an RBI guy is and what that means. And if you're like the Braves and you got 3 or 4 of them, then you got 3 or 4 guys that can carry at any point in time. Or the Astros, those are why those teams win. They're valuable, and it's hard to bet against those kind of teams. And when you do bet against them, just remember what you are betting against. It's like, it's hard to pick against the Braves because I think the Braves are the best team. But I don't think the Braves have the best pitching going into the series. I talked about it before. I think the Phillies can beat them. I think the Phillies should beat them. I think the Phillies match up pretty well with those guys. But we'll see. I like playoff baseball. Every pitch matters. Everything's important. But don't underestimate the value of not striking out. And I think if I look at this game, I don't know if I have it up anymore. I think that how many times did the Twins strike out today? Do you remember?
No.
I think they struck out. I'm trying to pull it up. The website is slow. So here we go. Box score. The Twins only had 3 hits in the whole game. They only had 3 hits. But they struck out 12 times, Jeff. Oh, no, they didn't. They struck out 14 times. 14 times. They had 3 hits and 14 strikeouts. There's only 27 outs in a game, so they struck out half the time. They were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They had 9 guys left on base, and those were critical spots. It builds momentum and carries that forward. I mean, I get it. The Astros were 3 for 14 with guys on base, but Jesus Christ, they had guys on base too all the time. it's just one of those things. You can't give up home runs if you're a pitcher. You gotta get strikeouts and limit the damage. And I don't see a bunch of aces out here this season.
No, not a lot of aces, a lot of jokers. No pun intended there. But anyways, I want to thank Billy and everyone else watching and listening. To myself and Scotty talking some playoff baseball. 2 outs, top of the first. 1 man on for the Orioles against the Rangers. Tomorrow, all you baseball lovers, we get some day baseball. Houston at Minnesota. Minnesota must win. Currently minus 125. Go grab the Astros at plus 105 if you like them. 507 Braves Phillies. Currently Phillies minus 126. Braves plus 115. Unsure if there'll be a
starter either.
Correct.
No listed starter for the Braves.
Well, they're waiting to see if Maddox, Glavine, or Smoltz can pitch. Don't know if there's a 7:00 game yet with the Orioles and the Rangers. And at 9:07, Dodgers at D-backs. Currently at Circa, Dodgers minus 140. D-backs plus 128. I had an actual over-under at 9.5. It is now 10 at Circa. So any of you guys that got a 9.5 in advance and you like the over, you better grab it now because it will be 10 as Circa has already moved it to 10. So if you're not following Scott, please go on to Twitter at Webby20MLB. Jump over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors and subscribe. It's free, and Twitch as well. Me and Scott will be back next Tuesday at 7:00, but keep an eye on our timelines on Twitter. We're going to see if we can get another show in once we get the matchups for the AL and NLDS. So with that being said, from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one, the only Mr. Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. We wish everyone a blessed evening. It has been a busy, busy, busy day here in the ECSI studios. Shout out to Pop DiBiase. Shout out to Andrew McGinnis. Shout out to Riley. And now shout out to Scott. Hell of a day, folks, and we'll catch you in the AM.